Question 1. Analysis of how a certified sales professional CSP should prioritize the reporting of sales metrics, such as conversion rates and customer acquisition cost, CAC, when faced with pressure to meet aggressive targets while strictly adhering to the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines governing their practice. Option A. Report sales metrics that reflect the most favorable outcomes, such as a shorter sales cycle length and higher customer lifetime value, CLTV, by selectively presenting data that aligns with management expectations, regardless of the underlying reality. Option B. Emphasize the importance of sales cycle length and customer lifetime value, CLTV, as primary performance indicators, potentially overlooking or downplaying issues related to conversion rates or customer acquisition cost, CAC, if they do not align with the desired narrative. Option C. Focus on achieving the highest possible conversion rates and lowest customer acquisition cost, CAC, by streamlining the sales process, even if it means reducing the depth of client suitability assessments to meet targets. Option D. Ensure all sales activities and metric reporting strictly comply with the CSP Code of Conduct and relevant financial services regulations, prioritizing client suitability and accurate disclosure above all else, even if it impacts short-term metric performance. Correct answer is C. Focus on achieving the highest possible conversion rates and lowest customer acquisition cost, CAC, by streamlining the sales process, even if it means reducing the depth of client suitability assessments to meet targets. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a sales professional to balance the pursuit of sales targets with adherence to regulatory requirements concerning customer suitability and disclosure. The pressure to meet key performance indicators, KPI, such as conversion rates and customer acquisition cost, CAC, can tempt individuals to overlook crucial compliance steps. Careful judgment is required to ensure that sales practices, even when driven by metrics, do not lead to misrepresentation or the sale of unsuitable products, which could result in regulatory sanctions and reputational damage. The correct approach involves prioritizing regulatory compliance by ensuring that all sales activities, including the measurement and reporting of sales metrics, are conducted in accordance with the Certified Sales Professional CSP Code of Conduct and any relevant financial services regulations. This means that while tracking metrics like sales cycle length and customer lifetime value, CLTV, is important for business efficiency and strategy, it must not come at the expense of verifying customer suitability, providing accurate disclosures, and acting in the client's best interest. The CSP framework emphasizes ethical conduct and client protection, which are paramount over short-term metric achievement. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on maximizing conversion rates without considering customer suitability would fail to uphold the ethical obligations of a certified sales professional. This could lead to the sale of products that are not appropriate for the client's financial situation or investment objectives, potentially resulting in financial harm to the client and regulatory penalties for the professional and their firm. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes minimizing customer acquisition cost, CAC, by cutting corners on client onboarding or disclosure processes would also be a regulatory failure. Such actions undermine transparency and could be construed as misleading practices, violating the principles of fair dealing and client trust. Furthermore, an approach that manipulates sales cycle length data to appear more efficient, without genuine improvements or accurate reporting, constitutes a breach of integrity and potentially misleads management about sales performance. Professional decision-making in similar situations should involve a hierarchical approach where regulatory and ethical obligations always supersede performance targets. Professionals should regularly review their sales processes to ensure they are compliant and aligned with client best interests. When faced with pressure to achieve metrics, they must ask themselves if the methods employed are ethical, transparent, and in full accordance with the CSP Code and applicable laws. If there is any doubt, seeking guidance from compliance departments or supervisors is essential. Question 2. The assessment process reveals that a potential client expresses strong interest in a new service offering and has indicated a willingness to spend a significant amount, but has not clearly articulated a specific business need that the service directly addresses, nor have they identified the ultimate decision maker for the purchase. The sales representative is under pressure to meet quarterly targets, which lead qualification approach best balances ethical obligations and regulatory compliance in this scenario. Option A. Focus on confirming the client's genuine need for the service and identifying the authority of the individual to make a purchasing decision, even if budget and timeline require further exploration. Option B. Inform the client that the service cannot be considered without a clearly defined need and a confirmed authority, thereby halting the sales process until these criteria are met. Option C. Proceed with the sale by emphasizing the readily available budget and the potential for a quick timeline, assuming the need and authority will naturally follow once the service is implemented. Option D. Immediately escalate the lead as a high-priority prospect based on the expressed interest and potential budget, deferring detailed need and authority assessment to a later stage. The correct answer is A. Focus on confirming the client's genuine need for the service and identifying the authority of the individual to make a purchasing decision, even if budget and timeline require further exploration. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a sales professional to balance the immediate need to close a deal with the ethical and regulatory obligation to ensure the client's suitability and the integrity of the sales process. Misrepresenting a lead's qualification status can lead to significant regulatory breaches, reputational damage, and ultimately, harm to both the client and the firm. Careful judgment is required to uphold professional standards and regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves accurately assessing the lead's need and authority, even if budget and timeline are less certain at this initial stage. This aligns with the principle of responsible selling, which emphasizes understanding the client's genuine requirements and their capacity to make a purchasing decision before proceeding. Regulatory frameworks, such as those governing financial advice or regulated products, often mandate that a salesperson must have a reasonable belief that a product or service is suitable for the client's needs and circumstances. Focusing on need and authority first ensures that the sales effort is directed towards clients who are genuinely likely to benefit from the offering, thereby avoiding wasted resources and potential client dissatisfaction. This also aligns with ethical guidelines that promote transparency and prevent mis-selling. An approach that prioritizes closing the deal by exaggerating the client's need or authority, even if they have a potential budget and a vague timeline, is ethically and regulatorily unsound. This misrepresentation can lead to the client entering into an agreement that is not in their best interest, potentially causing financial harm. Such actions violate principles of honesty and fair dealing, which are cornerstones of professional conduct and are often implicitly or explicitly required by regulatory bodies. Furthermore, it can be seen as a form of deceptive practice, which is strictly prohibited. Another incorrect approach is to solely focus on the potential budget and timeline, while downplaying or ignoring the client's actual need or authority. This creates a situation where a sale might be pushed through based on financial capacity and a desire for a quick transaction, rather than on a genuine requirement for the product or service. This can lead to clients purchasing items they do not truly need or cannot effectively utilize, resulting in regret and potential financial strain. Ethically, this is a failure to act in the client's best interest, and regulatorily, it can be construed as mis-selling or failing to conduct adequate due diligence on the client's suitability. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured qualification framework that prioritizes understanding the client's genuine requirements and their capacity to engage in a transaction. Professionals should always strive for accuracy and transparency in their dealings. When faced with uncertainty, it is better to seek further clarification or acknowledge limitations rather than to misrepresent information. Adhering to established qualification frameworks, such as BANT, ANUM, or MEDIC, provides a systematic way to gather essential information and ensure that sales efforts are both effective and ethical, thereby safeguarding the client and the professional's reputation. Question 3. The evaluation methodology shows that a proposed joint venture between two established companies in the same sector is expected to significantly increase market share and introduce innovative product bundles. However, concerns have been raised regarding potential impacts on market competition and consumer choice. Which approach to assessing the impact of this strategic alliance best aligns with regulatory expectations for certified sales professionals? Option A. Prioritize the potential for increased revenue and market dominance, assuming regulatory approval will follow if the venture is commercially successful. Option B. Conduct a thorough competitive analysis, assessing potential effects on market concentration barriers to entry and consumer welfare, and seek expert legal counsel on compliance. Option C. Emphasize the innovative aspects of the product bundles, believing that innovation inherently justifies the formation of the joint venture from a regulatory perspective. Option D. Focus on the speed of integration and market entry, relying on industry norms and informal assurances regarding regulatory compliance. The correct answer is A. Prioritize the potential for increased revenue and market dominance, assuming regulatory approval will follow if the venture is commercially successful. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because developing strategic alliances requires a delicate balance between pursuing business growth and adhering to regulatory frameworks designed to prevent anti-competitive practices and ensure fair market conduct. A certified sales professional (CSP) must navigate these complexities, understanding that the pursuit of partnership development, while crucial for expansion, cannot override legal and ethical obligations. The impact assessment of a proposed joint venture must therefore be thorough, considering not only potential market share gains, but also the implications for competition, consumer welfare, and compliance with relevant regulations. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that prioritizes regulatory compliance and market fairness. This means meticulously evaluating how the proposed joint venture might affect competition within the relevant market, considering factors such as market concentration, potential for collusion, and barriers to entry for new competitors. It also requires an assessment of the potential benefits to consumers, such as increased innovation, improved product quality, or lower prices, and ensuring that the venture does not lead to consumer harm. This approach aligns with the fundamental principles of fair competition and consumer protection, which are cornerstones of regulatory frameworks governing business partnerships. An incorrect approach would be to focus solely on the potential revenue growth and market expansion of the strategic alliance without adequately considering its competitive implications. This oversight could lead to a joint venture that, while financially attractive, could be deemed anti-competitive by regulatory bodies, resulting in significant penalties, forced divestitures, or even the dissolution of the partnership. Such an approach fails to uphold the ethical responsibility of a CSP to operate within the bounds of the law and contribute to a healthy market environment. Another incorrect approach would be to proceed with the joint venture based on informal understandings and a lack of documented due diligence regarding regulatory compliance. This can lead to unforeseen legal challenges and reputational damage. A robust impact assessment requires formal documentation and expert legal review to ensure all regulatory hurdles are identified and addressed proactively. Relying on assumptions or anecdotal evidence about regulatory acceptance is a significant professional failing. Finally, an approach that prioritizes speed to market over a thorough regulatory impact assessment is also flawed. While agility is important in business, rushing into a partnership without understanding its regulatory ramifications can lead to costly mistakes and long-term legal entanglements. Professional decision-making in partnership development requires a structured process that includes thorough due diligence, risk assessment, and proactive engagement with legal and compliance teams to ensure all strategic alliances and joint ventures are both commercially viable and legally sound. Question 4. Research into best practices for lead scoring, lead nurturing, and lead routing within the Certified Sales Professional (CSP) framework reveals several potential strategies. A sales team is evaluating its current process and considering adopting a new approach. Which of the following strategies best aligns with the principles of efficient, ethical, and effective lead management as expected of a certified sales professional? Option A. Focus solely on the volume of leads generated, assigning a high score to all leads and routing them to a dedicated team for immediate, high-pressure sales calls. Option B. Employ a lead nurturing strategy that involves sending generic promotional emails to all leads daily, regardless of their score or engagement level, and routing all leads to a single general sales inbox. Option C. Implement a dynamic lead scoring model that is regularly updated based on conversion data and market feedback, coupled with tailored lead nurturing based on score and engagement, and routing leads to the most appropriate sales representative based on this refined status. Option D. Utilize a static lead scoring model that assigns points based on initial demographic data and route all leads to the first available sales representative immediately upon entry into the system. The correct answer is C. Implement a dynamic lead scoring model that is regularly updated based on conversion data and market feedback, coupled with tailored lead nurturing based on score and engagement, and routing leads to the most appropriate sales representative based on this refined status. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a sales professional to balance the efficiency of lead scoring and routing with the ethical imperative of fair and transparent customer engagement. Misapplication of lead scoring can lead to missed opportunities or, conversely, overwhelming unqualified leads with inappropriate sales efforts, potentially violating principles of responsible selling and customer respect. The Certified Sales Professional (CSP) designation implies adherence to a high standard of professional conduct, which includes ensuring that sales processes are not only effective, but also ethical and compliant with relevant guidelines. The correct approach involves a dynamic lead scoring model that is regularly reviewed and updated based on conversion data and market feedback. This model should prioritize leads that demonstrate genuine interest and a higher likelihood of conversion, ensuring that sales resources are allocated efficiently and effectively. Furthermore, the lead nurturing strategy must be tailored to the lead score and engagement level, providing relevant content and avoiding premature or overly aggressive sales tactics. Lead routing should then be based on this refined scoring and nurturing status, directing leads to the most appropriate sales representative or team based on expertise and capacity. This best practice aligns with ethical sales principles by respecting the prospect's journey and ensuring they receive timely and relevant engagement, thereby maximizing the chances of a successful and mutually beneficial transaction. An incorrect approach would be to rely on a static, outdated lead scoring model that does not reflect current market conditions or prospect behavior. This can lead to misallocation of sales efforts, potentially frustrating both prospects and sales teams. Another incorrect approach is to route all leads immediately to the first available salesperson without considering their score or engagement level. This can result in unqualified leads consuming valuable sales time, detracting from efforts to close more promising opportunities. A third incorrect approach is to implement aggressive, one-size-fits-all lead nurturing tactics regardless of a lead score or expressed interest. This can be perceived as intrusive and may damage the company's reputation, potentially leading to a loss of trust in future business. Professionals should adopt a decision-making process that begins with understanding the core objectives of lead management: efficiency, effectiveness, and ethical engagement. This involves regularly evaluating the lead scoring model against conversion data, segmenting leads based on their score and engagement, and tailoring nurturing and routing strategies accordingly. A commitment to continuous improvement and a customer-centric mindset are crucial for navigating these complexities and ensuring that lead management practices are both profitable and principled. Question 5. System analysis indicates that a certified sales professional (CSP) is presenting a product to a prospective client. During the presentation, the CSP becomes aware of a significant limitation in the product's functionality that was not previously disclosed and which directly impacts the client's stated primary need. The CSP knows that disclosing this limitation will likely cause the client to reconsider the purchase, potentially losing the sale. The CSP also knows that a colleague who has been with the company longer has a general understanding of ethical sales practices, but is not an expert in specific disclosure regulations. What is the most ethically and professionally sound course of action for the CSP? Option A. Seek informal advice from the colleague about how to handle the situation without mentioning the specific regulatory implications of disclosure. Option B. Fully disclose the product's limitation to the client, explaining its implications for their specific needs, and offer alternative solutions if available. Option C. Withhold information about the limitation, focusing on the product's strengths and hoping the client does not discover the issue later. Option D. Downplay the significance of the limitation, suggesting it is a minor issue that can be easily worked around. The correct answer is B. Fully disclose the product's limitation to the client, explaining its implications for their specific needs, and offer alternative solutions if available. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a salesperson's desire to close a deal and the ethical obligation to provide accurate and transparent information. The salesperson is privy to information that, if disclosed, could significantly impact the client's purchasing decision, potentially leading to the loss of the sale. Navigating this requires a strong understanding of ethical principles and regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves prioritizing transparency and integrity. This means disclosing the material information about the product's limitations, even if it risks the immediate sale. This aligns with the core principles of sales ethics, particularly integrity and transparency, which are foundational to building long-term client trust and maintaining a professional reputation. Furthermore, regulatory frameworks for sales professionals often mandate disclosure of material facts that could influence a client's decision, preventing misrepresentation and ensuring fair dealing. By being upfront, the salesperson upholds their duty to the client and adheres to the spirit and letter of ethical guidelines and potential regulations governing their conduct. An incorrect approach would be to withhold the information about the product's limitations. This failure directly violates the principle of transparency and constitutes a misrepresentation, even if unintentional through omission. Such an action erodes client trust, can lead to significant reputational damage, and may expose the salesperson and their firm to regulatory scrutiny and penalties for deceptive practices. Another incorrect approach would be to downplay or misrepresent the significance of the product's limitations. This is a direct breach of integrity and honesty. It attempts to deceive the client into believing the product is more suitable than it actually is, which is unethical and potentially illegal. This approach prioritizes short-term gain over long-term client relationships and professional standing. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to seek advice from a colleague who is also unaware of the specific regulatory requirements regarding disclosure. Relying on informal or unqualified advice in matters of ethical conduct and compliance is risky. Professional decision-making in such situations requires consulting official company policies, regulatory guidance, or legal counsel to ensure adherence to all applicable laws and ethical standards. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear framework. 1. Identify the ethical dilemma. Recognize the conflict between personal gain, closing the sale, and ethical obligations, honesty, transparency. 2. Consult relevant ethical codes and regulations. Review professional conduct guidelines and any applicable laws or industry regulations that govern disclosure. 3. Assess the impact of disclosure/non-disclosure. Consider the potential consequences for the client, the salesperson, and the firm. 4. Prioritize client interests and integrity. Make a decision that upholds honesty and the client's right to informed consent. 5. Seek guidance if uncertain. If there is any doubt, consult supervisors, compliance officers, or legal counsel. 6. Document the decision and rationale. Keep a record of the decision-making process, especially in complex ethical situations. Question 6. Comparative studies suggest that sales professionals often face challenges in aligning pricing strategies with client financial realities and organizational profitability. In a scenario where a potential client expresses significant price sensitivity and indicates a competitor offers a similar solution at a substantially lower price, which approach best demonstrates financial acumen and ethical sales practice for a certified sales professional? Option A. Focus on highlighting the competitor's perceived weaknesses and potential service gaps to justify a higher price, without directly addressing the client's stated price sensitivity. Option B. Propose a significant discount to match or beat the competitor's price, emphasizing the urgency to close the deal and secure the client's business. Option C. Engage in a detailed discussion with the client to understand their specific needs and budget constraints, then clearly articulate the unique value proposition and potential ROI of your solution, justifying the proposed price based on superior benefits and long-term cost savings. Option D. Immediately lower the price to the competitor's level without further investigation, assuming the competitor's pricing is the market benchmark and the primary driver of the client's decision. The correct answer is B. Propose a significant discount to match or beat the competitor's price, emphasizing the urgency to close the deal and secure the client's business. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a sales professional to balance the immediate need to secure a deal with the long-term financial health of both the client and their own organization. Misjudging pricing strategies can lead to unsustainable margin, damage client relationships, and violate ethical sales practices by misrepresenting value. Careful judgment is required to ensure that pricing reflects true value, covers costs, and contributes to profitability, all while adhering to regulatory guidelines on fair competition and transparent dealings. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of the client's financial situation and the product's value proposition to arrive at a price that is both competitive and profitable. This requires a consultative sales process where the sales professional acts as a trusted advisor, exploring the client's needs and demonstrating how the proposed solution delivers a tangible return on investment. This aligns with ethical sales principles that emphasize honesty, fairness, and delivering genuine value. Regulatory frameworks often implicitly or explicitly support fair pricing practices that do not mislead or exploit customers. An approach that prioritizes securing the deal at any cost by offering a significant discount without proper justification or understanding of its impact on profitability is professionally unacceptable. This can lead to a race to the bottom, eroding perceived value and potentially violating principles of fair competition if it's part of a predatory pricing strategy. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of financial acumen, failing to consider the long-term implications for both parties. Another incorrect approach is to solely focus on the competitor's price without considering the unique benefits or value the proposed solution offers. This reactive pricing strategy ignores the sales professional's responsibility to articulate and justify their offering's worth, potentially leading to underpricing and missed revenue opportunities. It also fails to demonstrate a strategic understanding of the market and the client's specific needs. Finally, an approach that involves misrepresenting the financial benefits or ROI of the product to justify a higher price is unethical and potentially illegal. This constitutes deceptive sales practices and erodes trust, leading to severe reputational damage and potential regulatory penalties. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, deeply understand the client's business objectives and financial constraints. Second, clearly articulate the value proposition and ROI of the proposed solution. Third, develop pricing strategies that are aligned with this value and ensure profitability. And fourth, engage in transparent and honest negotiations, always prioritizing long-term relationships and ethical conduct over short-term gains. Question 7. Operational review demonstrates that a sales professional is under significant pressure to meet quarterly targets. A potential client expresses interest in a complex software solution, but the sales professional is aware that certain advanced features the client is inquiring about are still in beta and have not been fully validated for enterprise-level deployment. The client is eager to proceed quickly. What is the most ethically and professionally sound approach to managing this situation within the business development process? Option A. Recommend a different, less advanced solution that is fully validated, even if it doesn't fully address the client's stated desire for the cutting-edge features, to avoid any potential complications. Option B. Highlight the potential of the advanced features and suggest that the client can act as an early adopter, downplaying the current developmental stage and focusing on the perceived future benefits. Option C. Assure the client that the advanced features are fully functional and will be seamlessly integrated, emphasizing the speed of deployment to secure the deal, with the intention of addressing any issues post-sale. Option D. Fully disclose the beta status of the advanced features, explain the current limitations and potential risks, and offer a phased implementation plan that accounts for future updates, while also exploring if the core, validated features meet immediate critical needs. The correct answer is D. Fully disclose the beta status of the advanced features, explain the current limitations and potential risks, and offer a phased implementation plan that accounts for future updates, while also exploring if the core, validated features meet immediate critical needs. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in business development, where a sales professional must balance the urgency of closing a deal with the regulatory and ethical obligations to ensure accurate and compliant representation of products or services. The professional challenge lies in navigating the pressure to meet sales targets while upholding the integrity of the sales process and adhering to the Certified Sales Professional (CSP) Code of Conduct, which emphasizes honesty, transparency, and fair dealing. Misrepresenting capabilities or making unsubstantiated claims can lead to significant legal repercussions, reputational damage, and a breach of professional ethics. The correct approach involves a thorough and honest qualification process, ensuring that the proposed solution genuinely meets the client's needs and that all claims made are verifiable and compliant with relevant regulations. This aligns with the CSP's commitment to ethical sales practices, which mandate that sales professionals provide accurate information and avoid misleading the client. Specifically, this approach upholds the principle of know your customer and ensures that the proposed solution is suitable and beneficial, thereby fostering long-term trust and a sustainable business relationship. It also implicitly adheres to any applicable consumer protection laws that prohibit deceptive sales practices. An incorrect approach that involves exaggerating product capabilities to secure a deal is ethically unsound and legally risky. This constitutes a misrepresentation, which can violate consumer protection laws and the CSP's ethical guidelines against deceptive practices. Such actions erode client trust and can lead to contract disputes, financial penalties, and damage to the professionals and the company's reputation. Another incorrect approach, which is to downplay potential limitations or risks associated with the product or service, is also a form of misrepresentation. While not an outright exaggeration, omitting crucial information that a client needs to make an informed decision is equally deceptive. This failure to disclose material facts can lead to client dissatisfaction, breach of contract, and potential legal action, as it violates the principle of full and fair disclosure expected of a certified professional. A third incorrect approach, which is to bypass the qualification stage and immediately present a generic proposal, demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to understand the client's specific requirements. This can lead to proposals that are irrelevant or unsuitable, wasting both the client's and the sales professional's time and resources. More importantly, it can result in the sale of a product or service that does not meet the client's needs, leading to future problems and a breakdown of trust, which is contrary to the ethical imperative of providing value and building lasting relationships. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a structured approach to lead generation, opportunity identification, and qualification. This includes actively listening to the client, asking probing questions to understand their needs and constraints, and verifying the feasibility of meeting those needs with the available offerings. If the offering does not fully meet the client's requirements, the professional should be transparent about these limitations and explore alternative solutions or modifications, rather than making unsubstantiated claims. This commitment to honesty and client centricity is the cornerstone of ethical and successful business development. Question 8. Regulatory review indicates that a certified sales professional is tasked with developing a new sales strategy for a product line. To inform this strategy, the professional needs to conduct market analysis. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional standards and regulatory expectations for comprehensive market analysis? Option A. Rely on informal conversations with the sales team to gauge customer sentiment and competitor activities. Option B. Conduct in-depth interviews with a diverse range of potential customers and analyze industry reports from reputable sources, alongside an assessment of internal strengths and weaknesses and external market forces. Option C. Focus primarily on compiling competitor pricing data from publicly available sources. Option D. Prioritize the analysis of internal sales performance data to set future targets. The correct answer is B. Conduct in-depth interviews with a diverse range of potential customers and analyze industry reports from reputable sources, alongside an assessment of internal strengths and weaknesses and external market forces. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a sales professional to balance the immediate need for market insights with the regulatory obligation to ensure the accuracy and ethical sourcing of that information. Misinterpreting or misapplying market analysis techniques can lead to flawed strategies, wasted resources, and potentially regulatory noncompliance if the information used is misleading or obtained improperly. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that is both effective for sales strategy development and compliant with professional standards. The correct approach involves a comprehensive and systematic evaluation of the market landscape. This includes gathering data from reliable sources, analyzing competitor strengths and weaknesses, identifying internal capabilities and limitations, and understanding the broader external factors influencing the market. This holistic view ensures that sales strategies are grounded in reality, are adaptable to changing conditions, and are ethically sound, thereby aligning with the principles of professional conduct expected of a certified sales professional. An approach that relies solely on anecdotal evidence from a few existing clients is professionally unacceptable. This method suffers from a lack of statistical validity and can lead to biased conclusions, failing to represent the broader market. It also risks violating client confidentiality if information is shared without consent, and it does not meet the professional standard of conducting thorough and objective market research. An approach that focuses exclusively on competitor pricing without considering their product offerings, market positioning, or customer service is also professionally unacceptable. This narrow focus ignores critical elements of competitive analysis and can lead to a price-driven strategy that is unsustainable or misaligned with the company's value proposition. It fails to provide a comprehensive understanding of the competitive environment and may lead to decisions that are not strategically sound. An approach that prioritizes internal sales targets above all else, without adequately considering market realities or competitive pressures, is professionally unacceptable. This inward-looking perspective can lead to unrealistic sales goals and strategies that are detached from the actual market demand and competitive landscape. It fails to incorporate essential elements of market research and competitive analysis, potentially leading to ineffective sales efforts and a disregard for the broader business context. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the objectives of the market analysis. This should be followed by selecting appropriate research methodologies that ensure data integrity and objectivity. The analysis should then integrate findings from various sources, including market research, competitive intelligence, internal assessments, SWOT, and external environmental scans, PESEL, to form a cohesive understanding. Finally, all insights and resulting strategies must be evaluated against professional ethical standards and regulatory guidelines to ensure responsible and effective sales practices. Question 9. Consider a scenario where a prospective client expresses a desire for a specific software feature, but during further conversation, it becomes apparent that their underlying business challenge is related to inefficient data processing, which the requested feature only partially addresses. Which approach best aligns with professional sales principles and regulatory expectations for a certified sales professional? Option A. Focus on understanding the client's broader business objectives and underlying data processing challenges before proposing a comprehensive solution. Option B. Politely acknowledge the request but steer the conversation towards a different, more profitable product in the company's portfolio. Option C. Immediately confirm the client's request and proceed with demonstrating the specific software feature they asked for. Option D. Assume the client fully understands their needs and proceed with selling them the requested software feature as is. The correct answer is C. Immediately confirm the client's request and proceed with demonstrating the specific software feature they asked for. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a sales professional to navigate a situation where a potential client's stated needs might not align with their underlying business objectives, potentially leading to a misaligned solution. Careful judgment is required to ensure the client receives value and that the sales process adheres to ethical and regulatory standards. The correct approach involves actively listening to understand the client's stated problem, then probing deeper to uncover the root cause and their ultimate business goals. This stakeholder perspective recognizes that a client may not always articulate their true needs or the most effective solution. By focusing on the client's business objectives, the sales professional can identify solutions that genuinely address their challenges and contribute to their success, fostering trust and long-term relationships. This aligns with the ethical principle of acting in the client's best interest, a cornerstone of professional sales conduct, and implicitly adheres to any regulatory frameworks that mandate fair dealing and preventing misrepresentation by ensuring the proposed solution is suitable and beneficial. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the client's initial, surface-level request risks offering a product or service that does not solve their actual problem. This could lead to client dissatisfaction, reputational damage, and potentially violate principles of fair trading and suitability, which are often embedded in sales regulations. Another incorrect approach, which is to immediately push a predetermined product without understanding the client's context, demonstrates a lack of client centricity and prioritizes the sale over the client's needs. This can be seen as a form of misrepresentation if the product is not a good fit, and it erodes trust. Finally, an approach that involves making assumptions about the client's needs without verification is unprofessional and can lead to significant errors in judgment, potentially resulting in the sale of unsuitable products or services, which is contrary to ethical sales practices and regulatory expectations for responsible selling. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes understanding the client's true needs and business objectives before proposing any solution. This involves active listening, asking open-ended questions, and seeking to understand the why behind the client's requests. The goal is to become a trusted advisor rather than just a product pusher, ensuring that any proposed solution is genuinely beneficial and aligned with the client's long-term success. Question 10. The efficiency study reveals that sales professionals who prioritize speed in explaining complex product features often achieve higher immediate conversion rates, but subsequent client satisfaction surveys indicate a significant number of clients feel they were not fully informed about critical terms and conditions. Considering the regulatory framework for sales professionals, which approach best balances efficiency with the ethical and legal obligation to ensure client understanding? Option A. Focus solely on the verbal delivery of information, ensuring all technical jargon is included, and do not pause for client feedback or questions. Option B. Present all complex information at a rapid pace to cover as much detail as possible within the allotted time. Option C. Actively solicit confirmation of understanding from the client after explaining complex terms, using open-ended questions and observing their nonverbal cues to gauge comprehension. Option D. Assume the client understands the information if they do not explicitly state confusion or ask clarifying questions. The correct answer is C. Actively solicit confirmation of understanding from the client after explaining complex terms, using open-ended questions and observing their nonverbal cues to gauge comprehension. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a sales professional to balance the need to convey critical information effectively with the regulatory obligation to ensure client understanding and prevent misrepresentation. The pressure to close a deal can sometimes lead to shortcuts in communication, which can have significant legal and ethical repercussions. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all necessary disclosures are made clearly, and that the client has a genuine opportunity to comprehend the information, aligning with the principles of fair dealing and consumer protection. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves actively seeking confirmation of understanding from the client after presenting complex information. This demonstrates a commitment to clear communication and client welfare, which is a cornerstone of ethical sales practices and aligns with regulatory expectations for fair disclosure. By asking open-ended questions and observing nonverbal cues, the sales professional ensures that the client has not only heard the information, but has also processed and understood it. This proactive verification minimizes the risk of misinterpretation or a client later claiming they were not fully informed, thereby upholding professional integrity and adhering to the spirit of regulations designed to protect consumers. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves assuming understanding based on the client's silence or brief affirmative responses. This fails to meet the regulatory expectation of ensuring comprehension. Silence can stem from various reasons, including confusion, intimidation, or a desire to avoid appearing ignorant, none of which equate to genuine understanding. This approach risks misrepresentation and a breach of duty of care. Another incorrect approach is to rush through the explanation of complex terms, relying solely on the client's ability to absorb information quickly. This neglects the professional responsibility to communicate in a manner that is clear and understandable to the client. Regulations often mandate that information be presented in a way that a reasonable person would understand, and speed is often an impediment to this. A third incorrect approach is to focus solely on the verbal delivery of information without observing the client's nonverbal cues or providing opportunities for questions. Nonverbal signals can indicate confusion, disinterest, or agreement, and ignoring them can lead to a misjudgment of the client's comprehension. The absence of an invitation for questions further exacerbates the risk of miscommunication and noncompliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a client-centric communication strategy. This involves tailoring the delivery of information to the client's apparent level of understanding, using clear and concise language, and actively seeking confirmation of comprehension. A structured approach, such as the teach-back method or asking clarifying questions, is invaluable. Professionals should always prioritize clarity and understanding over speed or the immediate appearance of agreement, recognizing that thorough communication builds trust and ensures regulatory compliance. Question 11. The investigation demonstrates that a certified sales professional, CSP, is tasked with significantly increasing their company's qualified lead generation within the next quarter. The CSP is considering several strategies, including a large-scale cold email campaign targeting a purchased list of potential clients, developing a series of informative blog posts and downloadable guides, and actively engaging in industry-specific online forums and social media groups to answer questions and offer expertise. Which combination of lead generation techniques best balances effectiveness with regulatory compliance and ethical considerations for a CSP operating under a framework that emphasizes consumer consent and data privacy? Option A. Developing informative blog posts and downloadable guides, and actively engaging in industry-specific online forums and social media groups to answer questions and offer expertise. Option B. Developing informative blog posts and downloadable guides, and implementing a large-scale cold email campaign targeting a purchase list of potential clients. Option C. Relying solely on a large-scale cold email campaign targeting a purchase list of potential clients and actively engaging in industry-specific online forums and social media groups to answer questions and offer expertise. Option D. Implementing a large-scale cold email campaign targeting a purchased list of potential clients. The correct answer is A. Developing informative blog posts and downloadable guides, and actively engaging in industry-specific online forums and social media groups to answer questions and offer expertise. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a certified sales professional, CSP, to balance aggressive lead generation with strict adherence to regulatory frameworks and ethical conduct. The core difficulty lies in identifying lead generation techniques that are both effective in generating high-quality leads and compliant with the specified regulatory environment. Careful judgment is required to avoid practices that could lead to regulatory penalties, reputational damage, or customer distrust. The correct approach involves leveraging inbound marketing strategies, specifically content marketing and social media marketing, to attract potential clients who have demonstrated interest. This method aligns with regulatory principles by focusing on providing value and building relationships. Content marketing, by offering educational resources, establishes credibility and attracts leads organically. Social media marketing, when conducted responsibly, allows for engagement and targeted outreach based on expressed interests, rather than unsolicited intrusion. These techniques are generally compliant as they respect user privacy and consent, focusing on attracting individuals who are more likely to be receptive to sales engagement. An incorrect approach would be to rely heavily on broad, unsolicited outbound marketing, such as mass email campaigns without prior consent or cold calling lists that may not have been ethically sourced. This can violate regulations concerning data privacy and unsolicited communications, leading to fines and damage to the company's reputation. Another incorrect approach is to engage in social media marketing that involves deceptive practices, such as misrepresenting products or services, or using aggressive tactics that could be perceived as harassment. This not only breaches ethical standards, but can also contravene consumer protection laws. Furthermore, using events for lead generation without clear disclosure of how contact information will be used or without providing an opt-out mechanism can also lead to regulatory issues. Professionals should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes compliance and ethical considerations from the outset of any lead generation strategy. This involves thoroughly understanding the relevant regulatory landscape, including data protection laws and advertising standards. For implementing any technique, a risk assessment should be conducted to identify potential compliance pitfalls. A proactive approach, focusing on building trust and providing value, is more sustainable and ethically sound than aggressive, potentially non-compliant tactics. Continuous monitoring and adaptation of strategies to align with evolving regulations and ethical best practices are crucial for long-term success. Question 12. The analysis reveals that a certified sales professional, CSP, is evaluating new sales technology to enhance their sales process. They are considering a sales intelligence platform that aggregates vast amounts of publicly available data, a CRM system with advanced predictive analytics, and sales automation tools for mass email outreach. Which approach best aligns with the ethical and regulatory framework governing CSPs? Option A. Focus on implementing the CRM with predictive analytics to forecast sales trends and use sales automation for broad, generic email blasts to a large list of contacts, deeming the sales intelligence platform unnecessary for their current objectives. Option B. Implement the sales intelligence platform and CRM with predictive analytics while using sales automation for targeted, personalized email campaigns based on the insights gained, ensuring all data collection adheres to privacy policies. Option C. Prioritize the sales intelligence platform for lead generation and the sales automation tools for aggressive social selling tactics, with the CRM serving as a secondary repository for contact information. Option D. Deploy the sales intelligence platform to gather as much data as possible on prospects, regardless of its source, and utilize the CRM's predictive analytics to identify high-probability leads for immediate mass email outreach via sales automation tools. The correct answer is B. Implement the sales intelligence platform and CRM with predictive analytics while using sales automation for targeted, personalized email campaigns based on the insights gained, ensuring all data collection adheres to privacy policies. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a certified sales professional, CSP, to balance the strategic implementation of sales technology with the ethical and regulatory obligations governing customer interactions and data handling. The core difficulty lies in ensuring that the pursuit of efficiency and enhanced sales insights through technology does not inadvertently lead to noncompliance with data privacy regulations or unethical sales practices. Careful judgment is required to select a technology approach that maximizes benefits while strictly adhering to the established regulatory framework for sales professionals. The correct approach involves a comprehensive evaluation of sales technology solutions, prioritizing those that demonstrably enhance customer understanding and engagement within the bounds of regulatory compliance. This includes CRM systems that ensure accurate and secure customer data, sales automation tools that streamline processes without compromising personalized communication, sales intelligence platforms that gather information ethically, and social selling strategies that maintain professional integrity and respect privacy. The regulatory justification for this approach stems from the fundamental principles of data protection and fair business practices, which are paramount for CSPs. Adherence to these principles ensures that customer data is handled responsibly, consent is respected, and sales activities are transparent and honest, thereby upholding the integrity of the sales profession and avoiding legal repercussions. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the volume of leads generated by a sales intelligence platform without verifying the ethical sourcing of that data fails to acknowledge data privacy regulations. This can lead to the use of improperly obtained information, violating customer trust and potentially breaching data protection laws. Another incorrect approach that relies heavily on automated, impersonal outreach through sales automation tools, neglecting the need for personalized engagement and relationship building, risks alienating potential clients and may be perceived as intrusive or unprofessional, undermining the CSP's credibility. Furthermore, an approach that prioritizes aggressive social selling tactics without regard for platform terms of service or the privacy expectations of individuals on social media can result in reputational damage and potential sanctions. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the specific regulatory requirements applicable to their sales activities and customer data. This should be followed by a thorough assessment of any proposed sales technology, evaluating its features against these regulatory mandates and ethical considerations. Prioritizing solutions that offer robust data security, transparent data sourcing, and features that support ethical customer engagement is crucial. Regular training on evolving regulations and best practices in sales technology usage is also essential to maintain compliance and professional standards. Question 13. The control framework reveals that a sales professional is interacting with a potential client who has expressed a general interest in a new software solution. The client has provided minimal detail about their current operational challenges, Which questioning technique and listening approach is most likely to uncover the client's true needs and pain points, leading to an appropriate solution? Option A. Asking a few closed-ended questions to quickly confirm basic requirements, and then focusing on demonstrating how the software's unique selling propositions align with general market trends. Option B. Dominating the conversation by explaining in detail how the software has helped other clients, without pausing to ask about the current client's specific situation or listening to their feedback. Option C. Employing a series of open-ended questions designed to explore the client's current processes, challenges, and desired outcomes, while actively listening and summarizing their responses to ensure accurate understanding. Option D. Making assumptions about the client's needs based on their industry and immediately presenting the most advanced features of the software that could potentially address those assumed needs. The correct answer is C. Employing a series of open-ended questions designed to explore the client's current processes, challenges, and desired outcomes, while actively listening and summarizing their responses to ensure accurate understanding. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a sales professional to navigate a complex customer interaction where initial assumptions about needs might be inaccurate and the customer's true pain points are not immediately apparent. The challenge lies in moving beyond superficial inquiries to uncover underlying issues that the product or service can genuinely address, while adhering to ethical sales practices and regulatory guidelines. A careful judgment is required to balance the drive for a sale with the obligation to provide genuine value and avoid misrepresentation. The correct approach involves employing open-ended questioning techniques and demonstrating active listening to encourage the customer to elaborate on their situation. This allows the sales professional to identify the customer's actual pain points, which are the underlying problems or frustrations that the customer is experiencing. By understanding these pain points, the sales professional can then accurately assess how their offering can provide a solution, leading to a more effective and ethical sales process. This aligns with the principles of responsible selling, which emphasize understanding and meeting customer needs rather than pushing a product. Regulatory frameworks, such as those governing fair trading and consumer protection, implicitly support this approach by discouraging deceptive or misleading sales practices. Ethical guidelines for sales professionals also mandate honesty and a focus on customer benefit. An incorrect approach that relies on making assumptions and leading questions is professionally unacceptable. This method risks misinterpreting the customer's needs, potentially offering an irrelevant solution, and creating dissatisfaction. It can also be perceived as manipulative, violating ethical principles of transparency and honesty. Furthermore, if the misrepresentation leads to a sale based on false pretenses, it could contravene consumer protection laws that prohibit misleading conduct. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on highlighting product features without first understanding the customer's context is also flawed. This demonstrates a lack of active listening and a failure to identify pain points. It prioritizes the product over the customer's problems, which is an inefficient and often ineffective sales strategy. Ethically, it can be seen as a failure to act in the customer's best interest. A third incorrect approach that involves interrupting the customer to steer the conversation towards predetermined solutions fails to demonstrate active listening and respect for the customer's perspective. This can alienate the customer and prevent the identification of their true needs. It also risks presenting solutions that do not address the core issues, leading to a poor customer experience and potential breaches of trust, which can have reputational and regulatory consequences. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach to needs identification. This begins with establishing rapport, followed by employing a mix of open-ended and probing questions to encourage detailed responses. Active listening, including paraphrasing and summarizing, is crucial to confirm understanding. The sales professional should then synthesize the gathered information to pinpoint the customer's pain points and identify potential opportunities where their offering can provide a valuable solution. This iterative process ensures that the sales engagement is customer-centric and ethically sound. Question 14. To address the challenge of ensuring a sustainable and ethically sound business model, a certified sales professional, CSP, must prioritize understanding and accurately representing which core component of the business model to stakeholders, thereby mitigating risks of regulatory noncompliance and fostering long-term customer trust. Option A, the expansion of key partnerships without a clear understanding of their impact on the core value proposition. Option B, the aggressive pursuit of new customer segments regardless of the current value proposition suitability. Option C, the minimization of the cost structure through any means necessary to maximize immediate profit margins. Option D, the clarity and accuracy of the company's value proposition as communicated to defined customer segments. The correct answer is D, the clarity and accuracy of the company's value proposition as communicated to defined customer segments. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a sales professional to balance the immediate revenue goals of their company with the long-term sustainability and ethical implications of their business model, particularly concerning customer value and resource allocation. The Certified Sales Professional (CSP) designation implies a commitment to ethical conduct and adherence to regulatory frameworks governing sales practices. The core of the challenge lies in identifying a business model component that, if misrepresented or poorly understood, can lead to regulatory scrutiny and damage stakeholder trust. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of the company's value proposition and how it is communicated to specific customer segments. This aligns with regulatory expectations that sales professionals provide accurate and transparent information about the products or services offered. A strong value proposition, clearly articulated and tailored to customer needs, forms the ethical and legal foundation of a sustainable business model. Misrepresenting this can lead to breaches of consumer protection laws and industry-specific regulations that prohibit deceptive sales practices. The CSP framework emphasizes building trust through honest representation of value. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on maximizing revenue through aggressive sales tactics without a clear understanding of the underlying value proposition risks misrepresenting what the customer actually receives. This can lead to customer dissatisfaction, complaints, and potential regulatory action for misleading advertising or unfair sales practices. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes short-term gains by neglecting key resources or partnerships can undermine the long-term viability of the business model. This might not be a direct regulatory violation in itself, but it demonstrates a lack of strategic thinking and can indirectly lead to situations where promises made to customers cannot be fulfilled, resulting in ethical breaches and potential legal recourse. Focusing on cost structure in isolation without considering the value delivered to customer segments can also be problematic, as it may lead to offering services that are perceived as poor value, impacting customer loyalty and potentially violating regulations related to fair pricing and service delivery. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the company's entire business model, from value proposition to cost structure. This involves critically evaluating how each component is presented to customers and ensuring alignment with regulatory requirements and ethical standards. When faced with a decision, a CSP should ask, does this action accurately reflect the value we provide, to whom we provide it, and how we deliver it, in a manner consistent with all applicable laws and ethical guidelines? This holistic perspective ensures that sales activities contribute to a sustainable and reputable business. Question 15. The review process indicates that while the sales team is meeting its revenue targets, there is a lack of consistent articulation of the company's unique selling propositions and a disconnect between individual sales efforts and the overarching strategic vision. Which of the following approaches best addresses this implementation challenge for a certified sales professional? Option A. Increase individual sales incentives to drive higher revenue generation, assuming that meeting financial targets implicitly supports the company's strategic goals. Option B. Develop and implement a sales training program that explicitly integrates the company's vision, mission, and competitive advantages into sales pitches and customer interactions, setting performance goals that measure both revenue generation and strategic alignment. Option C. Implement a system of peer-to-peer sales coaching that encourages experienced representatives to share their successful, albeit unguided, sales techniques with newer team members. Option D. Focus solely on refining sales scripts to ensure compliance with basic regulatory disclosure requirements, without addressing the strategic communication of competitive advantages. The correct answer is B. Develop and implement a sales training program that explicitly integrates the company's vision, mission, and competitive advantages into sales pitches and customer interactions, setting performance goals that measure both revenue generation and strategic alignment. Explanation: the review process indicates a potential disconnect between the company's stated vision and its day-to-day sales operations, specifically concerning how competitive advantages are communicated and leveraged. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the certified sales professional, CSP, to bridge the gap between high-level strategic intent and practical sales execution. The CSP must ensure that the sales team's actions are not only aligned with the company's overarching vision and mission, but also effectively capitalize on identified competitive advantages, all while adhering to the regulatory framework governing sales practices. Careful judgment is required to balance strategic goals with the realities of customer interactions and market dynamics. The correct approach involves a proactive and integrated strategy where the CSP actively translates the company's vision, mission, and competitive advantages into actionable sales objectives and training. This means developing clear, measurable goals for the sales team that directly reflect the company's strategic direction and highlight how the unique strengths of the company's offerings, competitive advantages, should be communicated to clients. This approach ensures that sales efforts are not merely transactional but are strategically aligned, contributing to the long-term success and market positioning of the company. Regulatory and ethical justification stems from the principle of providing accurate and truthful information to clients about the company's capabilities and value proposition, which is fundamental to fair competition and consumer protection. By embedding strategic elements into sales training and goal setting, the CSP upholds the integrity of the sales process and fosters a culture of strategic awareness within the sales team. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on short-term sales targets without explicitly linking them to the company's vision or competitive advantages fails to leverage strategic planning effectively. This can lead to a sales team that is disconnected from the company's broader purpose, potentially misrepresenting the company's value or focusing on less sustainable sales tactics. Ethically, this can border on misrepresentation if the sales pitch does not genuinely reflect the company's core strengths and long-term strategic positioning. Another incorrect approach that emphasizes aggressive sales tactics to achieve targets, even if they don't align with the company's competitive advantages or ethical selling standards, is professionally unacceptable. This can lead to regulatory breaches if such tactics involve misleading claims or pressure selling, violating consumer protection laws and industry codes of conduct. It undermines the company's reputation and can result in significant legal and financial penalties. A further incorrect approach that prioritizes individual sales performance over team alignment with the company's strategic goals creates internal competition that can be detrimental to the overall business strategy. While individual performance is important, a lack of strategic cohesion means that the collective sales effort may not be directed towards achieving the company's overarching vision or maximizing its competitive advantages, potentially leading to missed opportunities and a fragmented market presence. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a continuous cycle of strategic review and operational alignment. First, thoroughly understand the company's vision, mission, and identified competitive advantages. Second, translate these strategic elements into specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, SMART sales goals. Third, develop comprehensive training programs that equip the sales team with the knowledge and skills to effectively communicate these advantages and operate within the company's strategic framework. Fourth, establish performance metrics that not only track sales results, but also assess the alignment of sales activities with strategic objectives and ethical standards. Finally, regularly review and adapt the sales strategy based on market feedback, performance data, and evolving competitive landscapes, ensuring ongoing compliance with all applicable regulations. Question 16. What factors determine the most effective and ethically sound approach to identifying and pursuing account growth opportunities within the Certified Sales Professional (CSP) framework? Option A. A focus on aggressive upselling and cross-selling based on product availability and sales targets, regardless of immediate client need. Option B. Pushing new products or services that offer higher margins for the sales professional, irrespective of their suitability for the client's current operational context. Option C. Prioritizing short-term revenue generation through high-volume sales, even if it means overlooking the long-term relationship and client satisfaction. Option D. A comprehensive understanding of the client's business objectives, challenges, and future aspirations, aligned with the genuine value proposition of the sales professional's offerings. Correct answer is D. A comprehensive understanding of the client's business objectives, challenges, and future aspirations, aligned with the genuine value proposition of the sales professional's offerings. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in account planning, where a sales professional must balance the immediate need to identify growth opportunities with the long-term imperative of building a sustainable and ethical client relationship. The challenge lies in ensuring that the pursuit of growth does not compromise the client's best interests or violate regulatory guidelines designed to protect them. Professional judgment is required to navigate potential conflicts of interest and to ensure that all proposed solutions are genuinely beneficial to the client, not just the sales professional's targets. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of the client's current business objectives, challenges, and future aspirations, coupled with a deep knowledge of how the sales professional's offerings can genuinely address these needs. This proactive, client-centric strategy ensures that any identified opportunities for growth are aligned with the client's strategic direction and are presented in a way that adds tangible value. This aligns with the principles of responsible selling, emphasizing trust, transparency, and the client's welfare, which are foundational to ethical conduct and regulatory compliance in sales. Specifically, in the context of a certified sales professional, CSP, operating under typical sales regulations, this approach upholds the duty of care owed to the client, ensuring that advice and solutions are suitable and in their best interest. An incorrect approach that prioritizes aggressive upselling without a foundational understanding of the client's needs is ethically flawed. It risks misrepresenting the value of products or services, potentially leading to client dissatisfaction and financial detriment. This can violate regulations that prohibit deceptive sales practices and require suitability of offerings. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on short-term revenue targets, neglecting the development of a strong client relationship, is also professionally unsound. This can lead to a transactional rather than a partnership-based engagement, making the client vulnerable to competitors and undermining long-term account health. It fails to meet the ethical expectation of fostering trust and loyalty, which are crucial for sustainable business relationships. A third incorrect approach that involves pushing products or services that are not a good fit for the client's current operational capacity or strategic goals, simply to meet a quota, is a direct violation of ethical sales principles and potentially regulatory requirements concerning fair dealing and suitability. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a disregard for the client's success. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, deeply understand the client's business and objectives. Second, assess how your offerings can genuinely contribute to their success. Third, identify opportunities for growth that are mutually beneficial and ethically sound. And finally, present these opportunities transparently and with a clear articulation of value, always prioritizing the client's best interests and adhering to all applicable regulations and ethical codes. Question 17. Process analysis reveals that our sales cycle length is increasing, while conversion rates are stagnating, and our customer acquisition cost, CAC, is rising disproportionately to customer lifetime value, CLTV. Which of the following approaches best addresses these interconnected sales metrics while adhering to the principles of ethical and compliant sales practices? Option A. Focus solely on reducing marketing spend to lower CAC, accepting a longer sales cycle and lower conversion rates as a necessary trade-off for cost savings. Option B. Conduct a thorough review of the sales process to identify specific stages causing delays, improve lead qualification criteria, and enhance sales team training on product value proposition and customer needs assessment. Option C. Implement a more aggressive, time-bound sales approach to shorten the sales cycle, coupled with increased discounting to boost conversion rates. Option D. Increase sales targets significantly without providing additional resources or training, expecting the sales team to overcome the metric challenges through sheer effort. The correct answer is C. Implement a more aggressive, time-bound sales approach to shorten the sales cycle, coupled with increased discounting to boost conversion rates. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a sales professional to interpret and act upon sales metrics in a way that not only optimizes sales performance, but also adheres to regulatory frameworks governing sales practices. The core difficulty lies in balancing the drive for efficiency and profitability with the ethical and legal obligations to customers and the market. A sales professional must understand that metrics are not merely numbers to be manipulated, but indicators that, when analyzed correctly, can reveal opportunities for improvement that align with regulatory compliance and ethical conduct. The correct approach involves a holistic review of sales metrics, including sales cycle length, conversion rates, customer acquisition cost (CAC), and customer lifetime value (CLTV), to identify systemic inefficiencies and areas for process improvement. This approach is right because it seeks to understand the root causes of performance variations, leading to sustainable improvements that benefit both the company and the customer. For instance, a long sales cycle might indicate a need for better lead qualification or more effective product demonstration, which, when improved, can lead to more informed purchasing decisions by customers, aligning with principles of fair dealing and preventing misrepresentation. Optimizing conversion rates through better sales training and product knowledge directly supports ethical selling by ensuring customers receive accurate information and are not pressured into unsuitable purchases. Reducing CAC through targeted marketing and efficient sales processes, while increasing CLTV through excellent post-sale support and relationship management, demonstrates a commitment to long-term customer value, which is often implicitly or explicitly supported by regulations promoting fair competition and consumer protection. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing the sales cycle length without considering conversion rates or customer satisfaction is flawed. This could lead to rushed sales processes, potentially pressuring customers into decisions they haven't fully considered, which could violate regulations against deceptive sales practices or misrepresentation. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes increasing conversion rates at the expense of CAC might involve aggressive, high-pressure tactics or offering unsustainable discounts, which could lead to customer dissatisfaction and potential breaches of contract or consumer protection laws. Furthermore, an approach that neglects CLTV in favor of short-term gains by cutting corners on post-sale support or product quality could result in customer churn and reputational damage, indirectly contravening regulations that aim to ensure product safety and fair market practices. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a framework that integrates data analysis with regulatory awareness. First, thoroughly analyze the sales metrics to understand their interrelationships and identify potential bottlenecks or areas of underperformance. Second, consider the implications of any proposed process changes on customer experience and regulatory compliance. This involves asking, will this change lead to more informed customer decisions? Does it align with principles of fair and honest selling? Are we fulfilling our obligations under relevant consumer protection and fair trading laws? Third, prioritize solutions that offer sustainable improvements and enhance customer trust, rather than those that offer only short-term gains at the risk of regulatory or ethical breaches. This proactive, customer-centric, and compliance-aware approach ensures that sales optimization efforts are both effective and responsible. Question 18. Process analysis reveals that a prospective client expresses strong interest in a new software solution, but is vague about their current pain points and how decisions are made internally regarding technology investments. The sales professional needs to determine the best way to proceed to qualify this lead effectively and ethically. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional sales conduct and efficient resource allocation? Option A. Engage in a consultative dialogue to understand the specific business challenges the prospect faces, how these challenges impact their operations, and who the key stakeholders are in the decision-making process, while also exploring their general capacity for investment. Option B. Focus on demonstrating the software's advanced features and benefits, assuming the prospect's interest implies a need and that budget and authority will be addressed later in the sales cycle. Option C. Prioritize securing a meeting with the highest-ranking executive identified, regardless of their direct involvement in the software's implementation, to gain a perceived advantage in the sales process. Option D. Immediately request a detailed breakdown of their current budget allocation for similar solutions and the names of all individuals involved in the purchasing decision before further discussion. The correct answer is B. Focus on demonstrating the software's advanced features and benefits, assuming the prospect's interest implies a need and that budget and authority will be addressed later in the sales cycle. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in sales where a prospect expresses interest but lacks clarity on their internal decision-making process and budget allocation. A sales professional must navigate this ambiguity to avoid wasting resources on unqualified leads or misrepresenting the product's suitability, which can lead to regulatory scrutiny and damage professional reputation. The challenge lies in discerning genuine potential from polite dismissal without overstepping ethical boundaries or violating sales conduct guidelines. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves systematically gathering information about the prospect's specific needs and how the proposed solution addresses them, alongside understanding their internal decision-making structure and financial capacity. This aligns with the principles of ethical selling, emphasizing a consultative approach that prioritizes the client's genuine requirements. By focusing on the need and authority components of frameworks like BANT or ANAM, and then exploring decision criteria and economic buyer and MEDIC, the professional ensures the prospect is a viable fit and that the sales process is transparent and compliant with professional conduct standards. This methodical information gathering prevents misrepresentation and ensures that sales efforts are directed towards opportunities with a high probability of successful and mutually beneficial outcomes, adhering to the spirit of fair dealing expected in professional sales environments. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach focuses solely on the prospect's stated interest without probing for underlying needs or budget. This can lead to misrepresenting the product's value proposition and wasting both the prospect's and the company's time, potentially violating ethical guidelines regarding honest representation. Another incorrect approach involves pressuring the prospect for an immediate commitment or budget figure without first establishing a clear need or understanding their decision process. This aggressive tactic can be perceived as unethical, potentially leading to a sale based on undue influence rather than genuine value, and may contravene professional conduct standards that advocate for a client-centric approach. A third incorrect approach is to assume the prospect's timeline is flexible and to delay qualification of budget and authority. This can result in significant wasted effort if the prospect ultimately lacks the necessary resources or decision-making power, demonstrating a lack of professional diligence and efficient resource management. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured lead qualification framework that balances the need for efficiency with ethical considerations. This involves actively listening, asking probing questions to uncover genuine needs and constraints, and understanding the prospect's internal dynamics. The decision-making process should prioritize building trust through transparency and ensuring that the proposed solution genuinely aligns with the prospect's requirements and capabilities, thereby upholding professional integrity and maximizing the likelihood of a successful, ethical sale. Question 19. Market research demonstrates that clients often present initial demands in negotiations that may not fully reflect their underlying interests or the true value of a product or service. In such a situation, a certified sales professional, CSP, is faced with a client who insists on a significantly lower price than the standard offering, citing a competitor's lower quote without providing specific details of the competitor's offering. Which of the following negotiation strategies best aligns with the ethical and professional standards expected of a CSP? Option A. Engage in a win-win negotiation by seeking to understand the client's underlying needs and exploring alternative value propositions or service packages that can meet their budget while still ensuring a profitable and sustainable agreement for both parties. Option B. Agree to the client's requested price, making significant concessions without further exploration to demonstrate flexibility and secure the immediate sale, even if it means a substantial loss in profit margin. Option C. Immediately match the competitor's price to secure the sale, assuming the competitor's offer is comparable and the client's demand is genuine to avoid losing the business. Option D. Focus on highlighting the superior features and benefits of your product or service, emphasizing its higher quality and long-term value, and firmly reject any price reduction, asserting that your pricing is non-negotiable. The correct answer is A. Engage in a win-win negotiation by seeking to understand the client's underlying needs and exploring alternative value propositions or service packages that can meet their budget while still ensuring a profitable and sustainable agreement for both parties. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a sales professional to navigate a negotiation where a client's initial demands appear unreasonable, potentially jeopardizing the entire deal. The challenge lies in balancing the need to secure a sale with the ethical and regulatory obligations to ensure fair dealing and avoid misrepresentation. A sales professional must employ strategies that foster trust and long-term relationships, rather than exploiting a perceived advantage or resorting to deceptive tactics. The correct approach involves a win-win negotiation strategy focused on understanding the client's underlying needs and interests, rather than just their stated demands. This approach prioritizes finding mutually beneficial solutions through open communication, active listening, and creative problem-solving. By exploring the why behind the client's position, the sales professional can identify areas for compromise and value creation that satisfy both parties. This aligns with the Certified Sales Professional (CSP) ethical guidelines, which emphasize honesty, integrity, and fair dealing in all client interactions. Specifically, it upholds the principle of acting in the best interest of the client, while also achieving legitimate business objectives, fostering a sustainable business relationship built on trust. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on meeting the client's initial demands without understanding their rationale could lead to an unsustainable agreement that is detrimental to the sales professional's company in the long run. This might involve making excessive concessions without adequate reciprocation, which could be seen as poor business practice and potentially violate internal company policies regarding profitability and risk management. Another incorrect approach that involves pressuring the client or misrepresenting the value of the product or service to justify the demands is ethically unsound and could violate regulatory frameworks related to fair trade practices and consumer protection. Such tactics erode trust and can lead to disputes, reputational damage, and potential legal repercussions. The CSP Code of Conduct explicitly prohibits deceptive practices and mandates transparency. A third incorrect approach that involves walking away from the negotiation prematurely without exploring all possible avenues for compromise or alternative solutions demonstrates a lack of negotiation skill and a failure to uphold the professional obligation to diligently serve the client's needs within reasonable business parameters. While it is important to recognize when a deal is not viable, an immediate withdrawal without attempting to find common ground is not a hallmark of a skilled sales professional. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Active listening and probing to understand the client's true needs and motivations. 2. Identifying areas of common interest and potential for mutual gain. 3. Brainstorming creative solutions and alternative proposals. 4. Making concessions strategically, linking them to reciprocal concessions from the client. 5. Maintaining open and honest communication throughout the process, ensuring transparency about capabilities and limitations. 6. Knowing when to walk away, but only after all reasonable attempts at reaching a mutually beneficial agreement have been exhausted. Question 20. Cost-benefit analysis shows that while aggressive closing techniques can sometimes yield immediate results, they carry significant risks. A sales professional is interacting with a potential client who has expressed interest in a product, but has not yet explicitly committed to purchasing it. The professional needs to move the conversation towards a close. Which of the following closing techniques best balances the need to advance the sale with ethical considerations and regulatory compliance by seeking to confirm understanding and readiness without undue pressure? Option A. Implementing a direct close by asking a blunt question about immediate purchase. Option B. Employing an assumptive close by stating the next steps as if the sale is already confirmed. Option C. Offering an alternative close by presenting product variations before confirming the core purchase decision. Option D. Using a trial close to ask a question that gauges the prospect's comfort level with proceeding. The correct answer is D. Using a trial close to ask a question that gauges the prospect's comfort level with proceeding. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the sales representative must navigate the delicate balance between effectively closing a sale and adhering to ethical sales practices and regulatory guidelines. Misjudging the customer's readiness or employing overly aggressive tactics can lead to regulatory breaches, damage the company's reputation, and result in customer dissatisfaction or complaints. The pressure to meet sales targets must be tempered by a commitment to fair dealing and transparency. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves using a trial close. A trial close is a technique designed to gauge the prospect's interest and readiness to buy without directly asking for the sale. It typically involves asking a question that assumes the prospect is leaning towards a purchase, allowing the salesperson to assess their reaction. For example, given these benefits, how do you feel about moving forward with this solution? This approach is ethically sound and compliant with regulatory frameworks that emphasize informed consent and avoiding undue pressure. It allows the salesperson to identify any remaining objections or concerns, address them, and then proceed with a more confident direct close if the prospect is receptive. This aligns with the principle of acting in the customer's best interest by ensuring they are comfortable and informed. Incorrect approach is analysis, an assumptive close, which directly assumes the sale has been made without confirming the prospect's explicit agreement, e.g., "I'll have this delivered on Tuesday," is ethically problematic, can be perceived as manipulative, and may violate regulations that prohibit deceptive sales practices or misrepresentation. If the prospect has not implicitly or explicitly agreed, this tactic can lead to a sale based on misunderstanding or pressure, creating grounds for a complaint or dispute. A direct close, while sometimes effective, can be inappropriate if the prospect has not yet shown sufficient buying signals or if there are outstanding concerns. Directly asking, "Will you buy this today?" without prior probing or addressing potential hesitations can be too aggressive and may violate ethical guidelines that discourage high-pressure sales tactics. It fails to provide an opportunity for the prospect to voice final concerns, potentially leading to a sale under duress. An alternative close, which presents two or more options for the prospect to choose from, e.g., "Would you prefer the blue model or the red model?" can also be problematic if used prematurely. If the prospect has not yet committed to the core product or service, offering choices about features or delivery can feel like a premature assumption of sale. This can be seen as a subtle form of pressure, as it bypasses the opportunity to confirm the fundamental decision to purchase. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a customer-centric approach, prioritizing understanding the customer's needs and readiness. The decision-making process should involve continuous assessment of the customer's verbal and nonverbal cues. When considering closing techniques, professionals should ask themselves, does this technique respect the customer's autonomy and provide them with the opportunity to make an informed decision? Regulatory compliance and ethical considerations should always precede the desire to close a sale. A trial close, by its nature, facilitates this by opening a dialogue rather than forcing a decision, thereby minimizing the risk of regulatory or ethical breaches.